Hey everyone, welcome back to Gen X Zen. I'm Jess, and today's episode is all about protecting your peace. As we move through life, we're constantly evolving, and so are relationships. Sometimes we need to pause and check in with ourselves to see if those relationships are still adding value to our lives or quietly disrupting our peace. In today's episode, we're going to talk about reevaluating relationships for healthy boundaries. We'll explore how to spot toxic dynamics, set boundaries that support your well being, and protect your mental and emotional peace. This isn't about cutting ties at first sign of trouble, but about making sure your relationships align with your personal growth and happiness. Because let's face it, relationships shape us. They teach us, they challenge us, and they reflect who we are. But they're not all created equal. Some are nourishing, while others might be slowly draining your energy. That's where the PRISMS framework comes in, helping you assess these connections through the lenses of positivity, resilience, intention, self awareness, mindfulness, and self care. Positivity in relationships is absolutely crucial. It's not just about feeling good, it's about whether the relationship adds value to your life and contributes to your overall well being. Ask yourself, does this relationship lift me up? Do I feel valued, energized, and supported after spending time with this person? Or on the flip side, do you feel yourself feeling emotionally drained, criticized, or taken for granted? These emotional indicators are your internal compass, signaling whether or not a relationship is nurturing your growth or hindering it. Think about those relationships that leave you feeling light, inspired, or even excited to connect again. These are the ones where you walk away feeling like your authentic self was appreciated, where your needs were respected, and where mutual care was at the core. Contrast that with the relationships where the interactions felt like a chore, where negativity hangs in the air, and where your voice and feelings are constantly overshadowed. Sometimes we may ignore these feelings because of history or loyalty or work obligations, but it's essential to honor what your emotions are telling you. This is where self awareness and mindfulness come in. They help us recognize what's really going on beneath the surface. Toxic relationships don't always announce themselves in grand, dramatic ways. They are often very subtle, creeping in with little compromises that add up over time. You might start by noticing how exhausted you feel after every interaction with someone. Feeling drained is a huge red flag. If you consistently feel like you're pouring from an empty cup after spending time with them, that's a sign that the relationship is taking more from you than it's giving. It's not selfish to want to be around people who energize you. You deserve to feel refreshed and supported, not deleted. Another key indicator of a toxic dynamic is constant criticism. Ask yourself, does this person build you up, or do they seem to find fault with every single thing you do? Healthy relationships allow room for constructive feedback, but if criticism feels never ending or belittling, that's not mutual respect. And the word's actually belittling. Fun fact. No one thrives in a relationship where they're made to feel smaller and inadequate. Manipulation is another common sign of toxicity. It can be as blatant as guilt tripping or as subtle as emotional manipulation that leaves you feeling like you have to constantly prove yourself or your worth. If you feel pressured into doing things that make you uncomfortable, that's a major warning sign. In a healthy relationship, Both parties respect each other's boundaries and decisions without resorting to coercion or threats. Lastly, let's talk about one-sided effort. A healthy relationship should be balanced, with both sides investing equally. If you're the one constantly reaching out, making plans, or maintaining the connection, while the other person is just along for the ride, it can feel draining and frustrating. While relationships naturally ebb and flow in terms of effort, it's important to recognize when the imbalance becomes a pattern. Recognizing these patterns is the first step towards reevaluating your relationships. It's essential to do this without assigning blame. This isn't about labeling someone as good or bad. Instead, it's about acknowledging the dynamics at play and taking responsibility for protecting your well being. You are the priority. Healthy relationships should make space for both people to thrive and grow. When they don't, it's okay to take a step back and reassess. Long-term relationships can be especially tough to reevaluate. Loyalty or history may make you feel like you have to hold on, even when the relationship is no longer beneficial. It's like holding on to a favorite sweater that no longer fits. It sits in your closet, it's comfortable and familiar, but you're not going to wear it. It doesn't bring you joy, and it doesn't serve you well anymore. That's why mindfulness and self awareness are so important. They help you examine how long term relationships make you feel. Are they still serving you in a positive way? Are you growing together, or have you grown apart? Consider this. You have a close friend you've known since childhood. While you once shared everything from school projects to life goals, you've noticed that your conversations now revolve around their problems, leaving you feel drained and unfulfilled. In a moment of mindfulness, ask yourself, how does this friendship make me feel? Do I still feel supported and valued? Reflecting on these questions can illuminate whether the relationship is contributing positively to your life or if it has become one-sided. Reevaluating a relationship doesn't necessarily mean ending it. It could mean redefining it or setting new boundaries that fit where you are in your life now. For instance, if you find yourself constantly supporting a friend who never reciprocates, you might choose to redefine your friendship by establishing clearer boundaries. You could say, I value our friendship, but I need to take a step back for a bit. I've been feeling overwhelmed, and I'd like to focus on my own needs right now. This way, you're not cutting them off entirely, but you are creating space for yourself while still acknowledging the relationship's importance. Another example could involve a long-term romantic partnership. If you've been feeling unfulfilled, it might be time to have an open conversation with your partner about your needs and desires. You might say, I feel like we've gotten into a routine and I'd love for us to explore new activities together. How do you feel about that? This not only redefines the relationship dynamic, but can also lead to renewed excitement and growth together. It also does not assign blame and opens up a conversation. You may also find that long-standing relationships require regular check-ins. For example, consider a family relationship that has evolved over the years. As you and your siblings enter different life stages, parenthood, career changes, or moving to new cities, or just aging in general, it's important to discuss how your relationships can adapt. Scheduling a family gathering where everyone can share their understanding and connection and their current experiences and feelings can foster understanding and allow you guys to redefine the relationships based on where everyone is at in this moment. Ultimately, reevaluating your long-term relationships is about cultivating the right environment for personal growth. It's a chance to create connections that support who you are now and who you aspire to be. Remember, it's not about guilt or obligation, but nurturing relationships that uplift and inspire you. You are a priority. By approaching these conversations with mindfulness and self-awareness, you're setting the stage for healthier, more fulfilling connections in your life. What to do when someone doesn't respect your boundaries? Besides hitting them with a sock full of bricks. I digress. And teasing. Setting boundaries is one thing, but what happens when someone repeatedly ignores or disrespects them? Unfortunately, not everyone will immediately honor your boundaries, and dealing with that can be tricky, especially in this day and age. Here's how to handle situations when your boundaries aren't respected. 1. Reinforce your boundaries firmly. The first step is to remind the person of the boundary you've set. Sometimes people need a little reminder, especially if they're not used to you asserting your needs. Be clear, calm, and direct. For example, if someone continues to bring up a topic you've asked them not to discuss, say, I've already mentioned that I'm not comfortable talking about this. I need you to respect that. It's important to stay firm without getting defensive. Repeating your boundary, especially in the beginning, is part of the process of helping others adjust to this new dynamic. Consistency shows that you're serious about maintaining the boundaries that you've set. 2. Evaluate the relationship's dynamic. If you've repeatedly communicated your boundary and it's still being ignored, it's time to step back and reevaluate the relationship. Ask yourself, is this a relationship that I want to continue investing in if my needs aren't being respected? When someone consistently crosses your boundaries, it's a sign that they may not value your well-being as much as you need or deserve. A crucial aspect of the PRISMS concept is self-awareness. Use this as a tool and an opportunity to reflect on how this person's behavior is affecting your mental and emotional health. If the relationship is leaving you feeling drained, frustrated, or feeling disrespected, it's okay to reconsider how much energy you're putting into it. 3. Set consequences. Once you've made it clear what your boundaries are and the other person continues to disregard them, it's time to implement consequences. Consequences aren't about punishment. They're about protecting your well-being. For instance, if a friend constantly invades your personal space or time, you might say, I've asked you several times to respect my boundaries, but if this continues, I'll need to limit our time together. Setting consequences communicates that your boundaries are non-negotiable, and it shows the other person that if they don't respect them, there will be real impacts on the relationship. It's not about ultimatums. It's about ensuring that you're not repeatedly put into situations that harm your emotional or mental health. 4, distance yourself if needed. Sometimes, despite your very best efforts and intentions, people just won't respect your boundaries. If this happens, it might be necessary to distance yourself from the relationship. This can be extremely difficult, especially if it's a long-term friend or family member. But protecting your well-being is more important than maintaining a relationship that continually drains or disrespects you. And this doesn't always mean cutting ties completely. It could mean reducing contact, limiting the time you spend with them, or interacting only in group settings where the dynamic feels safer. However you decide to handle it, the ultimate goal is to create space where your boundaries are honored and respected. 5, Surround yourself with supportive people. When someone doesn't respect your boundaries, it can feel isolating or frustrating. It is very important to surround yourself with people who do respect and uplift you. These are the relationships worth investing in. People who understand and appreciate your needs and who will support you in maintaining healthy boundaries are something to appreciate and model. Healthy relationships should feel reciprocal and respectful. And if you are constantly feeling undervalued or disrespected, shift your focus towards nurturing and positive connections can help you restore your sense of balance and emotional well-being. So, how do you start setting healthy boundaries? Setting boundaries can feel daunting, especially if you're not used to asserting your needs. But remember, boundaries aren't walls, they're a way to ensure mutual respect and protect your peace. Let's break down how to set them effectively. Communicate clearly. Clear communication is key. It's not about making demands, but expressing your needs in a way that's honest and kind. For example, if a friend's negativity is affecting you, instead of letting it fester, calmly share how their behavior impacts your mood. You might say, I've noticed that our conversations often revolve around negative topics. It's really starting to weigh on me. I'd love if we could focus on some more uplifting conversations. This approach is direct yet compassionate, opening the door to healthier communication. When communicating your boundaries, it's important to remember that people aren't mind readers. You may have been feeling frustrated for months, but unless you express your concerns, the other person may have been absolutely clueless. This kind of open dialogue can sometimes strengthen a relationship by giving the other person a chance to adjust their behavior. Here's another example. Imagine a coworker who always asks for your help, but rarely offers assistance in return. You could say, Hey, I'm happy to help when I can, but I've noticed that I've been taking on a lot of extra work lately. I need to focus on my own tasks for now. This communicates your boundary without alienating the person, and it clarifies your need for balance. Practicing self care. Setting boundaries is one of the ultimate forms of self care. It tells you that you are a priority. It's about carving out space for your mental, emotional, and even physical health. Don't even feel guilty about prioritizing yourself. This is essential. Think of it like putting on your oxygen mask first before helping others. If you're constantly bending over backward to accommodate everyone else's needs, you're neglecting your own peace in the process. Healthy boundaries allow you to show up as your best self, not just for you, but for everyone else around you. If you find that you're always saying yes to social plans, even when you're exhausted, you might need to set a boundary there also around your time. You could say something like, I've been really busy lately and I need some downtime to recharge. Let's plan to meet up another time when I have some more energy. This small act of self care ensures you don't burn out and allows you to prioritize your well being. When you set a boundary, it's like planting a seed of self respect. Over time, it grows into a stronger, healthier version of you. And that strength translates into every area of your life, your work, your relationships, and your self confidence. Lastly, be consistent. One of the biggest challenges in life and in growth is consistency. Setting boundaries, the biggest challenge is sticking to them. It's tempting to back down, especially when faced with pushback from others. But consistency is crucial. Once you set a boundary, uphold it. It's like training a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger it gets. If somebody repeatedly crosses the line, It's a signal that they may not respect your boundaries or your well-being. And while it can be tough to acknowledge, that might mean it's time to reassess or distance yourself from that relationship. Think about a family member who constantly oversteps your boundaries. Maybe they call you late at night, even after you've told them your evenings are your quiet time. By gently but firmly reiterating your boundary, I've mentioned that I need my evenings for rest, so I'll call you back in the morning. Click. You're showing consistency. Over time, people will come to understand and respect your limits. It's important to remember that boundaries aren't one and done. They need reinforcement. Whether it's a family member who oversteps, or a friend who doesn't respect your time, or a coworker who needs help and doesn't reciprocate, be consistent in gently but firmly holding your ground. The more consistent you are, the clearer it will become to others that your boundaries are non-negotiable. And this goes both ways. Just as you set boundaries for yourself, respecting others' boundaries is equally important. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, where both parties feel heard and valued. If someone tells you they need space or sets a limit, honor it without taking it personally. Recognize that their boundaries, like yours, are about self-care and not a reflection of how much they care about you. We've all been on that other side. Maybe a partner asked for some time alone, or a friend needed to decline an invitation, and it felt hurtful. But when we step back and view it through the lens of mutual respect, we can better understand and appreciate the need for those boundaries. Just as you would want those boundaries to be honored for yourself, offer the same grace to others. So if a friend tells you they need a weekend to themselves instead of hanging out, trust that they're taking care of themselves and be supportive, just as you'd hope they'd support you in return. Now that we've explored the importance of setting healthy boundaries and how they can enhance your well-being and relationships, it's time to put this in action. Understanding and implementing boundaries is an ongoing process, but with small, mindful steps, you'll see real progress, I promise. That's where our weekly PRISMS exercises come in. By breaking down this work into daily intentional actions, you'll not only strengthen your relationships, but also nurture your sense of self and emotional resilience. Now, here's your weekly exercises for the PRISMS Relationship Challenge. Day 1, positivity. Start by reflecting on the positive relationships in your life. Write down 3 things that each of these relationships brings into your life. Day 2, resilience. Think of a challenging relationship. What strengths have you developed because of it? Reflect on how you've handled past difficulties and how you can use that resilience to navigate future challenges. Day 3, intention. Set an intention to have a meaningful conversation with someone in your life. Focus on being open, clear, and kind, especially if it's about setting boundaries. Day 4, self-awareness. Spend time reflecting on any negative emotions or dynamics that arise in your relationships. Are there specific people or situation that trigger these feelings? Write about how you can approach these relationships differently. Day 5, mindfulness. Take a mindful pause today. Pay attention to your interactions and notice how they make you feel in the moment. Stay present and aware of your emotions during these conversations. Day 6, my favorite, self-care. Take time for yourself today. Whether it's a solo walk, meditation, or something relaxing, treat this as a self-care day. Reflect on how boundaries can serve as a form of emotional self-care. Day 7, reflection. On this final day, reflect on the week. What changes have you noticed in your relationships? What boundaries have you set or have you planned to set? How do you feel about the shifts you're making? After you complete these exercises, remember that setting boundaries and reevaluating relationships is an ongoing process. Don't get all hung up if you don't do it all this week, or if you didn't get it completed, or if you just thought about it. Each step can be a baby step, and each step you take brings you closer to cultivating a more balanced, positive connection in your life. As you complete these exercises, remember that setting boundaries and reevaluating relationships is an ongoing process. Each step you take, even if it's baby steps, and that is okay, can bring you closer to cultivating a more balanced and positive connections throughout your life. Now, let's reflect on the progress made this week and how these mindful practices can become part of your daily routine. It's not just about this one week, it's about creating lasting changes that can support your growth and well being. As we conclude today's episode, please carry this thought with you. Reevaluating relationships isn't about severing ties, but making intentional choices that prioritize your well being and your peace. It's about embracing connections that uplift you, nurture your growth, and honor your boundaries. I encourage you to take some time for self reflection using the PRISMS framework. Be open to acknowledging the dynamics of your relationships, and don't hesitate to make the tough decisions that are necessary for your happiness. You deserve to surround yourself with positivity, support, and joy in every aspect of your life. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Gen X Sun. If you found this discussion valuable, please subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends and family. You can visit our website at mygenxsun.xyz for more resources on self-care, mindfulness, and living your best life. Until next time, remember to prioritize yourself and honor your boundaries. I'm Jess, and I'm sending you positive vibes wherever you are.